Welcome into another edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, we are officially Wallace Gilberry days away from the start of the Bengals season.
I liked seeing that picture on the Jungle Juice page today. Good find. Good blast from the past there, Wallace Gilberry. Is he like the best number 95 we've ever had?
So, I mean, other than Zach Carter, it is because Zach Carter is 95, right? I think so. I think we're correct in saying that. No. So I've already gone through and I've tried to work ahead on scheduling some of them, and some of them are easy. Like tomorrow is pretty easy, obvious as to who 94 has to be.
Domata Peko.
Oh, I wanted to, but I already knew that I didn't want to tick off a large portion of the Bengals fan base by not going with somebody. You have to wait and see tomorrow morning as to who it might be. But then you get into some of these real interesting numbers of, like, who do you go with when it is 96 or 93, I think is one that I was like, who do I go with here?
Will Clark. He came in the beat quite a bit.
He was one that I considered.
He came into my parents' restaurant quite a bit.
And now I'm trying to look here of who I did pick. Okay, now we got to see. And then, I was also intrigued by 96. Is it too soon to put Carlos Dunlap? And I decided I think the wounds have at least healed enough to throw him up there for 96.
Yeah, I think that would have been fine.
Coming up, though, on the show today, we are going to dive into, for one, Joe Burrow. Oh, my goodness, he wasn't there yesterday. Everybody panic. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then Justin Jefferson signed his wide receiver contract extension. Was it yesterday? Was it Monday? I don't know. The days run together. It was earlier this week. And I think that has a huge impact to the Cincinnati Bengals. Massive. Because there's this guy who Justin Jefferson seems to know pretty well. His name is Jamar Chase. And yeah, you don't think that Jamar Chase was like, oh, hell yeah. When he saw that, then you're wrong, because I'm sure he was loving it probably even more than Justin Jefferson was. But before we get to that, we do want to ask you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. And we're also on your favorite podcasting platform, and join us there to listen to any show that you might miss. But Mick, to start off the show, yesterday, Joe Burrow, it comes out, not at practice. And then immediately it comes out, Zach Taylor's going to talk to the media after the practice, and everybody started freaking out. Did you freak out, or did you even know it was happening? I know you were working, so I didn't know if you even had time to panic.
Somebody came up to me in my cubicle yesterday, and he was like, "Did you hear the news about Joe Burrow?" It's like, no, there's no news. He's like, "He wasn't at practice today. Are you concerned?" It's like, I don't think so. I mean, maybe he needed to take a personal day off. Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I didn't think, didn't really think much of it.
I didn't either. But part of me, and this is kind of the question that I wanted to ask you as well, is, and I don't know the answer for it for myself, is how long is my PTSD going to be set in?
What do you mean?
As far as that, I mean of anytime anything Burrow related that I immediately go into a dark, dark space. Like, how long is this going to be a thing for me? It clearly, I guess, it's not a thing for you anymore. Are you not just
numb to it at this point? I'm numb to it. If it came out that Joe Burrow tore his ACL,
don't even put that evil. Don't even put that evil on it. Don't even put that evil.
Just be like, well, it happened. I don't know. I think I just accept things a little more easily now, especially after this last season where, the wrist injury, and then he was having the calf issues before that. I've come to terms that, something could happen at some point. I don't know. Like, I think you're just kind of numb to it after so many issues have happened.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm numb or really what the descriptor is for it, but there was definitely a part of me that goes, crap, yesterday. I was like, let's not have this happen. And thankfully, it comes out, Zach Taylor says, well, didn't think you all were going to be here to the media. He thought they were going to be there the day before when Joe Burrow threw, and he pretty much was like, it's okay. It's okay. This was planned. He's going to take days off and so on. And honestly, Mick, I think that's the best way to handle Joe Burrow right now is if he wants until September, honestly, there are only 17 days this year, hopefully more, that I would be not okay with Joe Burrow taking a day off on. Other than that, he can take any day off he wants.
Yeah. I think that they're trying to play it safe this time around. I think Zach openly said that they're going to treat, Burrow differently during this offseason, or they're going to be a lot more cautious with him. I think they got to try something, right? I mean, they've been trying to do things normally for the past 4 years. So yeah, you might as well just try something different, see if it works. So I don't mind seeing some type of load management as long as it's not going to hamper his ability to captain the offense. Come game day, I don't think it's really a cause for concern. Now, to just make the panic worse, apparently he didn't throw today. Not sure why.
No, I did not see that.
You're
bringing breaking news to me today. I've been busy, so I have not seen that.
Yeah, I think Goodberry tweeted that he did not throw today. I haven't really seen much since.
But he did throw on Monday. I do know that to be a fact that he did throw on Monday. So that at least tones down a little bit of any semblance of worry. And I'm sure a lot of this is that it was like, hey, we're okay. Everything's going to be okay. This is going to be planned. And also the biggest thing to think about this as well, Mick, is it's June the 5th right now.
Yeah.
Like, if this is September the 5th, I can definitely see a lot more panic and give fans a lot more reason to panic when it comes to that. But right now, we're okay. We're okay. Everything's going to be okay. Joe Burrow seems to be right now okay. And that's all that we can really ask for at this point on June the 5th when we're recording this here at least 7:09 there. Here, I know it's 8:09 where you are. The other big news of the week, not directly Bengals related, but Bengals related. And that's Justin Jefferson. He signs a 4-year, $140 million extension with $88.7 million guaranteed at signing. About $35 million per year. And if you're looking at the cap, the maximum portion of the cap he's going to take is about 14% of the Vikings cap. I don't think this deal surprises anyone. Everyone knew that Justin Jefferson was going to get paid. The 35 mil, that's steep. But if you're Jamar Chase, you're probably just sitting there like,
yeah. Justin Jefferson. You want to know how crazy this contract is?
How crazy?
It's like the equivalent of a mid-tier quarterback contract.
Yeah.
It is the equivalent to, so Baker Mayfield, his average pay per year, his APY is $33 million. Derek Carr's is $37 million, and Justin Jefferson is right in the middle of those two numbers at $35 million. And I mean, Mayfield and Carr are probably average starters in the NFL, starting quarterbacks. I mean, it's a giant contract for Justin Jefferson, and congrats to him for getting that. We are going to talk about how much does this impact Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, there's got to be some impact, right? I am interested to see if if the Justin Jefferson contract is all Jamar is going to wait on to start negotiating with the team, or if he's going to wait for CeeDee Lamb to get his extension. I think the Bengals are trying their best to get this thing moving, but it seems like Jamar is wanting to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league, just based off of,
Wouldn't you?
I mean, yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah,
but
I mean, get your bag.
I know, but the Bengals, the Bengals are wanting to start. They want to start negotiating this.
Luckily, though, the biggest thing with this is that they're really not. I mean, they're in a rush, but it's not like they're pushed up against it like they would be for T. Higgins. Just to put things into perspective, Jamar Chase.
They're not in a rush, but it's just going to keep on getting more expensive as each extension goes by, and that's why they're kind of in a rush, because they're probably the only one that may make more money than Jamar now is CeeDee Lamb. That's
correct. To put things into perspective here, so the Chase is entering right now in 2024. That's the final year of his rookie deal. So he's being paid $9.8 million this year, which is maybe the biggest bargain in the history of bargains. He's not even making $10 million this year. Pretty good bargain. Next season, so this is 2025, $21.8 million. That's the fifth-year option. That's the fifth-year option, around that $21.8 million mark. We'll just say 22 just for market. And obviously now you're seeing what Justin Jefferson's making. Bargain for that. And then technically, Mick, we also do have to at least mention in 2026, they could franchise tag him. Yeah, and you'd be looking at probably, I mean, looking at how this number is continuing to grow, let's just say that number grows to 30 for the franchise tag number by 2026. Let's just for conversation purposes say that. You could make an argument again there. That's another steal for Jamar Chase. Looking at the Bengals cap situation, because I think this is the interesting discussion. As I mentioned, right now, that total for Justin Jefferson is about 14% of the Vikings cap is going to be the max of it. So when you're looking at the numbers and so on, which is kind of interesting. So looking at the Bengals' future cap and what they already have locked in right now is 2026. So that would have been the year that they would quote unquote have to franchise tag Chase. Mm-hmm. When he is no longer under contract right now. Burrow's cap, 16.5%. Next highest, Orlando Brown Jr. That's the final year of his deal, 7.5%. Third highest is Logan Wilson at 3.3%. Just shows you there's not a lot of long-term contracts on this team.
They have a ton. They have a ton of wiggle room for when this extension would effectively take place, or when the big money would start kicking in. They've got a lot of wiggle room. And I don't think there was ever a question of them. There's ever been really a question of, can they keep Burrow or Chase? The big question for the past God knows how long, probably ever since the 2021 season, is how do you keep Chase, T, and Jamar on the team? And I've been saying this for the past few years. You can't.
And let's definitely come to that here in a couple of minutes, because I think that's a huge question to answer, is on T. Higgins as well, because that's a whole other discussion too. It's like, the Justin Jefferson deal is like one of those diagrams in school. Remember where it shoots off? I can't remember what they're called, carrots or I don't remember. But it's like you got the Jamar Chase.
Yeah, box and scatter. Is that a box and scatter plot or?
Sure, scatter plot. Isn't that a thing?
Box and whisker plot.
Sure. That sounds great to me. We're going to call it that. Box and whiskers. It goes down, and then there's shoot-offs here for Bengals, and you got Chase, Higgins. You could probably even throw Burrow in there. Heck, there might even be a Jermaine Burton, side off there. It's just kind of interesting under Bengals with this. To 2027 for the cap hits as well. Burrow, 16.7%. Second highest, Logan Wilson, 3.3%. Third highest, really, really weird. For some reason, Mims and Jenkins aren't on this list. As far as, I'm not sure if their deals are still up in the air with how that gets calculated. But right now, the third highest player, contract-wise on the Cincinnati Bengals for 2027, Mick, according to Spot Rack, is Dejon Anthony at 0.62%. There's a decent chance Dejon Anthony doesn't even make the team this year. So I don't really know. And then in 2028, there's one player under contract for 2028 for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. Technically, there's another one who has like a little kind of under contract, and that's Amarius Mims because he has the 5th-year option. But it shows that there is a huge open market in there for the Bengals. But what I wanted to follow it up with is looking as how many teams in the NFL are right now currently paying both a top 10 quarterback and a top 10 wide receiver just financially when we get into this. Do you know how many there are?
Oh man, I'm taking a look here. I would imagine the Eagles have to be doing that.
They are one of them. There are 2 more. Can you name them?
Probably the Lions now with the Goff extension and the Amon-Ra St. Brown extension.
Mark is right in guessing 3 as well.
Oh, I didn't.
And then the third one.
I'm guessing, is it Stafford? Is it the Rams?
It is the mistake by the lake. Cleveland.
Oh, it's the Browns.
Amari Cooper is a top 10 paid wide receiver right now.
Well, that is not correct. His APY is like 20th.
Well, I'm going off of cap hit for
Bengals. He may have a big cap hit this year because they backloaded that deal.
So,
but his APY is $20 million a year, by the way.
So this is going off of Spot Rack's top 10 paid receivers and top 10 paid quarterbacks. So it's 3. Browns, Lions, Eagles. Hurts is at 14% of the cap. Brown is at 8.2% in that realm. But he's got a weird void coming up in a couple of years of 14%. His contract's a little weird that I can't really figure out as to what happens in, I guess it's 2026 or 2027, into where his cap could go up to 14% of the Eagles cap. I don't know if you're looking at it right now. It's kind of weird.
I'm not looking at the percent. Well, okay, so I'm seeing over the cap has it at 8% and 7% for 2026 and 2027.
Interesting. So we'll just keep it at that 8.2% because that's what Spot Rack had it at as well. Browns, okay. Deshaun Watson this year is 25% of their cap. And again, that's just that contract is questionable. And Amari Cooper at about 9.3% is the max. Jared Goff, 24% is the max he'll take up. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the max he'll take up is 12.3% throughout the state of his contract. So that kind of leads us into Joe Burrow's highest percentage that he'll have during his current deal is 16.7% of the cap for the Bengals. And let's just say the Justin Jefferson deal was the top it will get is 14% of the cap, which means that if you combine those two, roughly, you would think that the 14%, let's just say Jamar's at 14.5, a little bit more. You'd be seeing that the Bengals would be looking at roughly 31% of their cap going to only 2 players if the Jamar Chase deal is similar to Justin Jefferson. And I kind of lead in is that too much for 2 players?
No.
And I don't disagree.
These are the 2 most highly valued positions in the NFL. Your number 1 wide receiver or your number 1 pass catcher and your quarterback. You need to have an elite guy that stays with your quarterback for, good chunks of his career. And that in a good chunk exceeds the 5-year rookie deal, the 4 to 5 year rookie deal. So, you saw Brady, right? Brady had Gronkowski for a decade. Mahomes has had Kelsey for, the past 7-8 years.
Yes, yeah. You could even just say a decade. Just
now they've had both teams, both of those franchises have had to move on from other elite wide receivers or other really good wide receivers and pass catchers because you can't afford to have 2 of them. That's the question: is how many can you afford to have one of them? Yes, and those teams have been able to do it. The problem is both of those guys were tight ends and were, and tight ends have generally been cheaper than number one wide receivers. But yeah, I think you need to keep Joe and Jamar together. I think that they've had, you know, plenty of rapport with each other over the past probably 5-6 years, dating back to their 2019 season at LSU. Jamar is one of those receivers that still can just break a game open entirely. Um, you need to have one of those guys, and then you're backfilling the rest of the pass catchers through the draft, or you're making a Hollywood Brown type of signing like the Chiefs did this year. So, yeah, I think that they can afford to do it. They got a lot of wiggle room. They're gonna, the cap's also gonna increase plenty, in the next few years. Yeah.
That's really interesting because, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm fascinated by that. Is these new TV deals are going to keep on coming and coming and coming, especially when every streaming service under the moon now has pretty much
it's just a bidding. It's a bidding war.
It
now
is, which just
NFL
means
games.
more money and money and money
And
is going to come into these leagues.
Not just the TV streaming either. It's the gambling revenue. The NFL is raking in money at a much higher rate than they've been ever. It's inflating incredibly.
And see, I'm interested. You have your accounting background. Is typically these things hit a plateau. Typically, they hit a mark. And this could be not even just. This is just in general. When prices, usually that level will be hit. And what I'm interested in is how teams are going to balance, because you don't know when that level is going to be hit. Is it going to be hit next year? Is it going to be hit in 2040? We have no idea. And I'm fascinated by how teams will balance the cap with that in trying to project. Now, the one thing that the Bengals are known for is that they look at the cap, but really they imagine the cap minus about $10 to $15 million every single year. They always
try to keep
a rainy day fund.
Surplus. Yes, they try to keep a surplus in cap space, which I think is a very fiscally responsible thing for the franchise to do.
Compared to the Saints,
the Saints, the Dolphins, the Bills, there are so many teams who's
in cap hell.
They're either they're cap hell, or I say they've got bad cap health. I mean, that's I mean, there's some I don't know how the Saints do it, honestly. They have to be just constantly figuring out how to restructure their deals just every season, which is just nuts. But yeah, I mean, the Bengals, I think, have been fiscally conservative. Now, how much does it have to do with, they're not an insanely, wealthy front office, or, owner. It's not a very wealthy ownership structure, and that might have something to do with it there. But yeah, I mean, they always seem to prioritize their cap health, and that's why they're always at the top of the league in that regard.
And that's where I'm really interested to see how they project the cap to be in 5 years. Or let's just say 6 at 2030.
Well, I don't think that they can see. I think it wouldn't be reasonable to see the cap inflate like it has the past couple of years. I think the cap probably inflates like a lot of other, goods in America. I don't think it's a coincidence that, we've seen huge cap increases in the past couple of years, while inflation, worldwide has been, pretty high over the past couple of years. And also to also throw another aspect into why the caps increased is that more and more states are starting to legalize sports gambling. Kentucky just legalized it within the past year. It's been great. It's been a great time. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing more and more states legalize sports gambling, and you're going to see more and more people start betting on games. It's probably more revenue that the NFL is going to see as a whole. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to. My point is, I don't think it's going to increase at the same rate, but it's still going to inflate, just like everything else does.
I mean, and you mentioned the sports gambling thing. It would not shock me if and it might not even be 2 years. Like there is going to be a point in the next 5 years, we'll just say that, where you will walk into Paycor Stadium and there will be a row of booths where you'll be able to play sports bets.
Yeah.
They will have, and I mean, heck, the Reds had it last year where you could walk into Great American Ballpark, and I know they moved it across the street now. What was it? MGM had the sports book inside the stadium.
Yeah.
And that's just going to become a thing, and it's just more and more money that is going to come into those teams. And it's a really good point, and I'm fascinated by how the cap is going to look. And it's one of those that I wish you could like give truth serum to like Catherine Blackburn or Katie Blackburn. And like, I'd love to sit down and talk to her because that's her specialty is contracts. And I mean, listen, say what you want. She's not a dummy. She's incredibly intelligent.
These guys,
incredibly intelligent.
No, Katie Blackburn negotiated some of the best free agent deal signings I think I've ever seen within the past 5 years. I think the Orlando Brown Jr. signing's a huge example of that. Now, Orlando Brown Jr. wasn't great last year, but for what everybody thought he was going to get in the 2023 offseason, compared to what he ended up signing for with the Bengals, that was an insanely team-friendly deal on the Bengals for the Bengals. The Cheetah Bayawuzie contract also. I mean, you got a top-tier NFL corner for a season and a half for $7 million of pay
for pretty much nothing.
It's pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap. I mean, hell, DJ Reader.
Trey Hendrickson.
The Trey Hendrickson deal is one of the best value contracts in the NFL. We haven't even talked about. It's so. Yes, Katie, Duke, whoever's doing the negotiating, these guys know how to negotiate. And that's where I'm also thinking, like, the Jamar extension isn't going to be a big deal. Yeah, they're going to make him probably the highest paid receiver in the league, but they've been pretty good at finding these, not A-list free agent type of players, but they've been good at backfilling the roster with solid players to be starters on the team. So, yeah, I don't really think there's really much of a concern with Jamar. Now T's gone.
That's the next point I want to make. I know Freddie, he writes in and says, I don't think they pay T after the tag. I'm honestly leaning towards them not paying Chase if he's wanting more than Justin Jefferson. I think they believe Burrow with a good offensive line can make other guys better, that they aren't willing to break the bank on them two saying, I want them both back, just not sure how it's done. Now, I'll disagree on Chase. I think Chase is back. Like, they're going to pay him because he's worth that. But I think the T. Higgins point is I'm fascinated by the Jefferson deal of where T. Higgins slots in there. He's not making $35 million.
No, I think he's probably making somewhere where
25.
Yes, I'd say about $25 million. He wants to make in the Michael Pittman range of money.
Yeah,
the Bengals just shouldn't. They can't afford to do both of those. And
so you'd be looking at right there. Let's just say they do that, and let's just for conversation purposes say that's about 10% of the cap. Let's just for example in saying that. So you're telling me that if they sign T. Higgins, that 3 players would cover over 40% of your cap. I don't think you can do that.
No,
you can't do that.
Can't do that.
And especially for T. Higgins, I love T. Higgins. We both do. He's battled injuries. He's been up and down at times. I don't think you can gamble on it. If you had 2 Jamar Chases or 2 just elite wide receivers, I don't even think you could pull it off then. But it would almost be somewhat like you could make an argument for it. But I think to Freddie's point here of This is where you have to trust Joe Burrow. And the fact that Joe Burrow will be able to make Jermaine Burton look like T. Higgins, or make Charlie Jones look like Tyler Boyd, or make whoever next year's wide receiver pick, if they go to one, whoever that might be, to be the next, and so on, to continue to make these young guys. Because I think that's what it's going to be, is you're going to see that wide receiver 2 spot over these next 10 years is going to be somebody different every 4 to 5 years.
2 and
It's just
3.
gonna keep
Wide
on.
receiver 2,
Yeah.
3, the tight end, the running backs. I mean, that's what it's going to be, because you there are other priorities of where to spend the money, right? I mean, yeah, you're going to want to pay your wide receiver 1 now. After Jamar's extension, you're probably going to extend hopefully a successor within the next 5 or 6 years or whatever. So and it's not just on Burrow. I mean, it's on the coaching staff, it's on the front office to scout and find good wide receivers through the draft, and to find those Hollywood Brown types of contracts among existing veterans in the league. So I mean, that's just the name of the game. I don't really have any worry that they're going to be able to pull that off.
I mean, to look at it this way is, T. Higgins, let's say $25 million is what he'd want. And that's probably about what it would be his average year. That is almost the entire Bengals offensive line.
Yep.
Almost. It's not exact, but it's close. You pay the offensive line and you draft T. Higgins because you want to. Because another thing is Mick, is how many wide receivers have come out in the last 3 to 5 years that have been dudes?
Yeah, that's another really good point to bring up. The wide receiver position is oversaturated.
It's never been better
right now. Yeah, I mean, we just saw potentially 15 starters get drafted with in the first 3 rounds of this past NFL draft. Now, probably it is a really heavy wide receiver class that just came out. It's probably not going to be that heavy every year, but we've seen really good talent come out every year for the wide receiver position. So yeah, that's a great point to bring up.
You mentioned 15 starters, and that's not even going with the day 3 guys, the Puka Nakuas this year that really we don't know a lot about that they found. Every year there's 2 or 3 of those guys. The Tank Dell, even though Tank Dell wasn't day 3, but still the guy that you knew was going to be good, but blows up in being elite to that realm. And if you're the Bengals, you're hoping that this year's guy is Jermaine Burton and that realm of being the guy that blows up with it.
Exactly. And then just another point, I mean, we talked about the coaching staff kind of developing these guys. I mean, the Bengals have one of the best wide receiver coaches in the league with Troy Walters. I mean, we've seen Troy Walters create this big 3-headed monster, a wide receiver that we've enjoyed over the past 3 years. So, yeah, I think that these guys are going to be able to develop the wide receivers just fine. If T comes back and plays for 2024, which I think we all agree that he will, he had Jermaine Burton coming in, like that's going to be a killer trio to watch. Like I think that with Jermaine Burton, your offense is probably way more explosive with those 3 wide receivers than with Tyler Boyd. So I mean,
without question. And then you throw in a more explosive running back.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just say Chase Brown. You have a more explosive tight end. I mean, nothing against Irv Smith, Mick, but Irv Smith wasn't necessarily the most.
You have a more reliable tight end. I think, I don't know about the explosion numbers from either Smith or Gesicki, but yeah, I mean, I think you have a more receiving option at tight end for sure with Gesicki.
Well, I mean, he can't be much worse.
No.
Than Irv Smith, who we almost had as many catches as him last year than he did. I mean, he made good money considering the amount of catches he had. But overall, the Jamar Chase deal to me, Mick, is going to be eerily similar to Justin Jefferson plus a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think the big question is because Tommy brought up a good point. Like, do you just wait until next offseason to extend Jamar just to not piss off T. Higgins and he just doesn't even bother to come here and play, or he sits out for a good chunk of camp or whatever. It is a good question to ask, but
should the Bengals have that mentality?
I don't think they should. I think like I said before, I know the clock's not necessarily ticking in terms of like we still have a couple of years to get this thing done, but the clock is ticking as in, each contract that goes by without Jamar getting extended gets more expensive to extend Jamar. So,
and I'm also interested too in this realm of there's been, I know, some rumbling that the NFL almost might consider putting some semblance of a cap on contracts for specific positions. And I can't imagine the PA agreeing to that.
no.
But I don't know. You know this as well as anybody is that there's the give and the take. Is there something that the PA would be willing to get in return that the NFL would offer, like a second bye week? But then again, I think the second bye week, the return for that is an 18-game season.
I think that the PA would ask, if you're going to cap our contracts at a certain number, then we are going to cap our guarantees at a certain number of that contract, at a certain percentage of that contract. I think that is probably what the take would be, or what the give and take would be there. That to me, that's what would make the most sense, right? I mean, if you're going to cap the amount of money I make, I want to make sure as much of that is as guaranteed as I can get.
I'm just interested is it's the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever it was called. We're not talking politics, but it was put in there to try and stop inflation. I don't care what you think about inflation. It doesn't matter. But we've brought that up does the NFL need to try and put in an inflation act of some sort to stop these contracts from getting so much? Or are they just going to say, screw it, let's just keep on raising this cap, and next thing we know, the cap's going to be $500 million a year?
Yeah, I think they should just respond to the supply and demand of the market. Now, I mean, if the demand for the NFL goes down, and which I don't think we'll see necessarily, and revenues aren't as high as, or revenues decrease, well, then, I mean, it sounds like more sensible contracts are going to be, or, a lesser amount of money is going to be paid. But the thing is, and we talk about inflation, we never really see deflation just in the American economy in general. The goal with the Inflation Reduction Act is to just have inflation we want prices to kind of stay where they are now. We just don't want them to go up anymore. Now, they are really high, but people are thinking, oh, well, we're going to see a deflation in the dollar. It's not going to happen. What you're hoping is that inflation slows down immensely, in that the price doesn't go up any more than what it is right now.
And that can perfectly be put into contracts in the NFL.
Yeah.
Is that these owners are hoping $35 million. Shoot, does that mean in 10 years, when the next Jamar Chase is coming through, is he going to be signing a contract worth $50 million a year, and quarterbacks are going to be looking at $75 million a year? It's going to be fascinating.
With this. The NFL owners will never miss out on their profit margins. If they're paying their players if they're paying quarterbacks $75 million a season, in a couple years, or in 5 years, let's say, best believe their profit margins are the exact same in terms of the percentage, in terms of their percentage of their revenues, than what they are right now. And they're probably actually higher. The NFL is the NFL is the most owner-friendly professional league in existence.
Biggest thing is no guaranteed money.
Exactly.
There's guaranteed money, but look at MLB. If if Justin Jefferson tomorrow, played in Major League Baseball and tomorrow, God forbid, something would happen to him and he'd never play another game in the NFL, all that money would go into his pocket. And he's still going, I mean, if that would happen here, again, I don't want that to happen. Let's just say wide receiver Bill, just not to throw Justin Jefferson and put a curse on him or something. But it's so different. And you make a great point there.
Yeah. I can't imagine being an owner of an MLB team now. Like, I feel like that's just an awful investment. That is, and people are like, not to get too far off topic, but people have been telling Bob to sell the team for God knows how long. Like, who the hell would want to buy the Reds? Like, they're in a small market. They're in a dying sport. Sorry, baseball's kind of dying. It's, definitely not doing as well as the NFL right now. I don't think anybody is. But yeah, It's just, the NFL is just, they've got everything down to a science. I mean, and kudos to Roger Goodell too, because the dude knows how to run the business. In
without question, you can say what you want. I mean, to put things into perspective, Mick, how excited were we 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever it was for them to announce the dang schedule? Like, I mean,
they've made it a profitable thing.
They were on primetime TV for 3 hours talking about the schedule release. Major League Baseball just drops it like in late July at 3:00 on like a Thursday. And it's just like, oh, all these teams, there they go, putting the graphic out. There it is. Now I get it, 162 versus 17, like it's a little different there, but the NBA does the same thing. It is just so different. I mean, the NFL they own everything. And I guarantee that in the next 6 or 7 years that we're going to probably have some semblance of an event in June, because right now this is like the one event a year that they got nothing going on.
Yeah.
And nothing. It's just,
they don't have anything going on.
I mean, OTAs, no one cares. Like, in all seriousness, no one cares.
Yeah.
But other than that, every other month they've got something. February, Super Bowl. March, you've got free agency. You've got the combine and so on in there. April, you've got the draft. May, you've got the schedule release. July is the start of training camp. August is preseason. September through February, you've got games. And Roger Goodell deserves a lot of credit for that. Yeah. Hate him all you want, but he knows what he's doing. We've gotten, I think, off topic enough, Mick, but I think the overall point is that the Jamar Chase deal, it's going to happen. It's going to look very similar to this. And this is it for T. Higgins as a Cincinnati Bengal, because there's no way that they can afford to put 40% of their cap towards 3 players.
Yeah. So, T fans, enjoy this season. It will be the last one with him in a Bengals uniform. Sorry to break the news to you, but you can only pay one of them, and you're going to pay the guy that's better than the other.
Yep. And I would be one of the first people in line. If T. Higgins has an unbelievable year this year, I'd be the first one in line to shake his hand and say thanks. I appreciate what you did.
Not us.
Yes, and hopefully it's like the I'd like to see him go. Like, what's a team that like the Seahawks or the Rams?
Who the hell was catching balls from Mac Jones?
Gesicki.
He had one season of catching balls from Mac Jones. Okay.
Gesicki. Yeah, that was that point in the show there. But I just hope he goes to some place that we can, or the Cardinals or something, to where it's like I can kind of cheer for him and we only see you once every 4 years. Because I would hate for him to go to like the Ravens or something, or Steelers, or Chiefs. It would just be painful.
If I had to guess, like, where do you might as well just speculate where, like, you think he would go. I mean, we're not doing anything else. Might as well take a look. Where do you think T would go?
How about we
Tennessee?
say Arizona?
Maybe Tennessee.
Arizona. He's just gonna continue to follow AJ Green path. He loves AJ Green, so he comes to Cincinnati. So now he's going to follow and go to Arizona and pull the AJ Green there. But, okay. I mean, Tennessee's a great guess. I mean, let's say Bryce Young doesn't look like god-awful garbage this year. Could Carolina be a state? That's where he's, well, I guess he's from Tennessee, but he went to school in that area.
The only reason I wouldn't go with Carolina is that they just drafted their X receiver, I think, in Xavier Legette. I think Xavier would play the X position like T.
See, I would say Legette is.
I think he's a Y.
I would almost say so.
So I mean, the Panthers have Deontay in the slot, probably. I would think they have Xavier Legette, and then Jonathan Mingo, is that the other guy?
I was just trying to think. I'm so excited to play them because that show of us prepping for the Panthers, that's such a team that they're there. I forgot that Jadeveon Clowney signed there.
Honestly, I think the Panthers are going to be better than
Adam Thielen. You've got Adam Thielen in the slot and Deontay Johnson
on the outside. Okay.
Yes. And then Xavier Legette as well. Bingo backs up Legette. Terrace Marshall, remember him?
So Legette's going to be the X. That is all but confirmed because there's no way Deontay Johnson's your X.
Oh.
Now, if they could sign T or whatever, and Falcons might be a place for T to go as well.
I just
they already have
too,
their X in Drake London.
Can we just? I hope Bryce Young is going to be okay week 3 and nothing happens to him because I just remembered who the Panthers' backup quarterback is, and he just has to play against the Bengals every single potential time it happens.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's true.
Andy Dalton revenge game. I mean, I think literally every potential time that as Andy Dalton has been the backup quarterback, it's happened. I guess it just happened twice, right? Dallas, Chicago.
I'm surprised like one of these QB needy teams didn't try to trade for him this year. Like the Raiders, I think would have made a lot of sense for them to like try to trade for Andy with Marvin coming back and I mean the one game we saw from Andy Dalton, like the Panthers offense actually looked like functional and good. Like that game against the Seahawks I'm thinking of. That is the one I'm thinking of.
I mean, their core is not bad. Like it's not bad.
No, their offensive line's decent. Their receivers are good. I mean, they're better. And then Dave Canales coming there, I think is going to be a huge. I think it's going to be huge for him. I don't know where we got to talk. Oh yeah, we think T might go there.
Yeah, and that's just me just talking too. But I don't know. It's interesting when it comes to it, and think the end of September we'll be talking about Bengals Panthers. 1 o'clock game in Charlotte. Everyone's looking forward to that. But it's interesting. I think to wrap everything around to where we started with this is the Ja'Marr Chase and the Justin Jefferson fallout from this is going to be fascinating to watch. Mick, 1 year from today, June the 5th, happy birthday to my mom.
Happy birthday, Adele.
So when she turns next year,
35.
She gonna smack you. I think she's 29 again, is what she says.
29.
Yes. I'm catching up to her. But when she turns, maybe she'll turn 30 next year. I don't know. She hasn't decided yet. When she turns 30 next year, will Ja'Marr Chase have an extension? Yes or no?
Yes. I think Ja'Marr has an extension.
Will he have an extension by the time Carolina game? We'll just because no. So you think it happens?
I think it happens this upcoming offseason. I hope it happens beforehand. Yeah, I think it happens probably around this time next year. Maybe just before the draft. I don't know. I don't think it happens before the season starts because of T. Higgins is there. And like I don't know. I think it is an interesting point that Tommy brought up that they don't want to. They extend Ja'Marr in tag T. Forget about how that impacts T. How much does that impact the rest of the locker room? Because that I think that would have a significant impact on the locker room as
does
a whole.
It?
I think it does.
And see, that's the question is the Bengals locker room strong enough to overcome something like that?
I mean, it might be, but I wouldn't test it.
I do think that these guys know it's a business.
I think if they extend, and another thing, if they extend Jamar, there's a good chance they try to trade T.
I don't think there's any shot they trade T. Higgins before this season.
I think there's a good chance they could explore
unless T. Higgins just flat out comes out and says, "I'm not coming." Like, but then again, you just call his bluff. Because what is T. Higgins' trade value right now?
Not
really,
good.
Yeah,
it's not a good trade value. Don't get me wrong.
So I think you call his bluff at that point. I mean, would you get a 4th-round pick for T right now? If we're being honest, I think you could probably swing that.
I think you could get a 3rd. Still.
3rd, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Every week we're like, yeah, this show is probably going to be about 30 minutes long, and look at us. We're getting closer and closer to the hour long. But I think
are you ready to call it here?
We can't unless you've got something else. We can wrap it up.
Have anything.
Overall, though, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, and so on. Because who knows? Maybe the Vikings will trade Justin Jefferson to the Bengals, and that'll be how we get our 40% of the contract. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, bringing the band back together, and then they can trade to the Panthers and get Terrace Marshall as well to play in there, and let's roll, right? That's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, the good news about getting the LSU band back together is that everybody else would be cheap.
And one guy you just have to convince to come out of retirement.
Who's that? The Foster Moreau?
Left or your tight end. You got to pull him out of retirement.
Oh, Thad Moss, yeah.
Thad Moss. Got to pull him out of retirement. You got Cushenberry, right? I don't know that I could tell you any other offensive linemen on that team.
You bring back Tyler Shelvin. He's not an offensive lineman, but defensive lineman. The rest of that roster's cheap, okay? Well, some of them are. Patrick Queen's not cheap.
No. Yeah,
Stingley's also not cheap.
Yeah, probably not so much when it comes to that. Oh, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, Sadiq Charles, yeah. Garrett Brumfield was their left guard. I don't know who that is. No. Damian Lewis and Adrian McGee.
He just signed an extension somewhere, I think.
I guess Foster Moreau is still technically a thing there. I do find it hilarious here. The depth chart here. I guess this is week 1. Oh, this is 2018. This is the year prior. I'm looking at a very old one. I was going to say
Foster Moreau wasn't on the team in 19.
Why is this? Okay, their 2019 season opener. I just found it funny that the depth chart was okay. They've changed it here. Was Jamar Chase or Terrace Marshall, and it's just kind of funny seeing or those two. But okay, we've gotten off topic enough. We don't need to talk about the 2019 LSU offensive line. We'll be back next week. Who knows what the topic could be, but we'll be there Wednesday at 8 Eastern, record live. Remember, follow us on our social media channels. We are also on your favorite podcasting platform. You can listen back in and don't miss any of the action there. Subscribe to us. And yeah, Mick, any final thoughts?
Nope. Have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend. See you next week.
And remember, hey, don't let the
Mark did text me about that.
Oh, there you go.
Mark, we might be going on Friday. Do you want to go to the Friday game too?
Yeah, if you'll be in town Friday. If you'll be in town Friday, let us know. We definitely will. I know I'm going to be there tomorrow, and I'd almost be down to go Friday as well, just because regardless of what happens, I know it is always fun to go. And remember, Mick, don't let the Reds get hot. Don't let the Reds get hot. They're getting hot, and I like it. That'll wrap us up. Hey, a sweep is a sweep. A sweep is a sweep. And hey, a sweep is a sweep, and let's sweep the Cubbies this weekend. That's always a good thing. We'll see you next week. That'll wrap us up. Hoo day.
Thanks for watching.